Welcome back to Worship Guitar Lab. Today we're covering the basics of delay pedals and the attributes that are associated with them. The pedal we're going to be using today is the Boss DD500. Now, if you don't have that same pedal, don't worry. Some of the attribute names might be different, but a lot of the features are going to be exactly the same as the pedal you might have. Let's jump right in. The basic attributes we're going to be covering today on the delay pedals are the tempo, the note pattern, feedback, effect level, and modulation depth. Let's start with tempo. Okay, this one's pretty basic. We all sort of know what that one means. It's the tempo that the song is at. If the song's at 120, you want to set your delay to 120. Next up, the note pattern. You can really set the note pattern to any musical note you want. You can set it to quarter notes, eighth note, whole notes, dotted eighth notes, dotted quarters, and each of them will give you a unique sound that can be really cool when you use it in the right way. As you can see, first up we have it on quarter note delay, so that's going to basically just match your tempo. There's 4 of those per measure if you have it on quarter note. We'll go ahead and change that to a dotted eighth and show you what that sounds like. A dotted eighth note can be really cool if you're trying to build tension in a song. You have an intro and you're really wanting to raise the hype on the beginning of it. It can really build a lot of anticipation. Next attribute we're going to talk about is feedback. That's how long the note repeats after you strike it. So as you can see right now, we have a fairly, I'd say that's sort of a medium length. We'll go ahead and turn that way up and show you what that sounds like. Now we have a really high feedback. Here, check this out. That'll just keep going forever. You can crank it up so that it's almost continues to make a loop on top of itself. So probably wouldn't want to use that too often unless you're playing some really weird ethereal stuff, but it's a thing. All right, we'll turn that back down and go to effect level. Effect level is going to be how loud the sound repeats. After you strike the note, the repeated pattern, how loud it is. So as you can see, that's going to play into the feedback level because the louder something repeats, the longer you're going to probably hear it. But this is basically the volume of the repeats. Right now we have an effect level of 80. So that's going to play about 80% of the volume that I hit the note at. We'll go ahead and turn that down and show you what that sounds like. As you can see, that's a lot more subtle. You might want to use something like that underneath the lead guitar part. One thing to keep in mind is both of these settings are really important because as you start playing a lead part, if your feedback or effect level is too high, it's going to start trampling on top of the notes that you're playing. It's really going to kind of get in the way of what you're trying to do. All right, next up is modulation depth. Not every pedal has this one, but it's a really cool effect. We'll go ahead and show you what that's about. Modulation depth is sort of a pitch shift. As the note repeats, its pitch is going to vary up and down. So what that can do is give you a sense of space. As things echo into a hallway, the notes shift a little bit. The pitch goes up and down. You barely notice it, but when used right, it can sound really great. Okay, for this one, I went ahead and turned the effect level and the feedback level way up so you can hear exactly what it's doing. I'll go ahead and turn it up all the way just for example. So that sounds pretty weird, but usually you want to go a little more subtle with this one. Now that we've covered the basic attributes of delay, we're going to go ahead and show you a couple examples. This first one's a dotted eighth, maybe used for a rhythm. You can already see how that would really fatten up your sound, and if you're playing by yourself, that could be a really nice, really big effect for an intro. As the song gets going and more instruments get added, you may want to be careful that it's not adding too much noise to the total mix. For our second example, we're going to go with a dotted quarter note. This you probably would want to use on a little bit of a slower song, not with a ton of notes. You'll notice you'll use different patterns for different types of playing. If you're playing a ton of notes, you probably want to bring the subtlety down a little bit, like bring the effect level down and the feedback down. As you play things that are a little more simple, you have a little more room to make the effect a lot more obvious. Well, that about covers the basics of delay. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and we'll see you next time.